me a second, guys. All right. Get the blur off. All right. I think you can hear me. Good evening, everybody. My name's Nate Bomberger. This is Nightcap. You know the deal. Whew. I just ran up the steps. So let me breathe. Fucking getting old. Anyway, listen. Welcome back. It is the second week of our series. You know how we do. We do Monday through Thursday, 10 till whenever. 4 weeks on. This is week 2. And, you know, I really can't help but continue to talk about the culture war that's brewing just in time for the midterms. They're setting the stage right as we speak. And of course, social media is where it's the modern day town hall, if you will. And, you know, that's where you go and you can see how stupid people are and see the fucking carnival barkers bitching about things they know nothing about. And of course, what do I mean by the culture war and these people bitching about shit they know nothing about? The swimmer, the trans swimmer that made Frontlines, which is being used as a pawn to create fear, is all over the social media town hall bullshit. And I'm having to go through that same moment I did when people I thought I knew that believed in the same kind of ideals about America that I do voted for a fucking con man. And so I had to kind of purge those folks who couldn't see without those balls slinging in their face. You know, I make that analogy just to make sure you don't fucking forget that we lived a fable. We lived a fucking fable. The emperor with no clothes, and you saw how people just worshiped him. People still have fucking flags in their yard. Bizarre. But I realized that those are people that I don't need in my life. And I'm sorry. If you're voting for Trump and you're thinking, you know what, I'm a good guy, I don't, or gal, or they, I honestly, I wonder kind of if you drive at night with your eyes closed, if you know, I mean, it just seems that if you don't have the judgment to assess somebody that has all that history and you think they'd make a good leader, it tells me a lot about how you think. It tells me a lot that you are more about your tribe winning than actually putting a good person in office, even somebody with the track record of Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. And so we're seeing the same kind of shit. I'm feeling like I have to go through and kind of purge these folks who are posting memes about the trans folks on their feed, making jokes about it. And you know, in one of the person's threads, they're on the same fucking page. They're complaining about their kid being bullied at school. And then they're posting these pictures about these trans folks, and they're making fun of transgender folks, and they're suggesting that, hey, this is a man, don't fucking get it twisted. All these things that they know nothing about. So a couple things are happening right now. First of all, you're seeing the hypocrisy of people. You're seeing the true colors of folks. They can't really grasp walking in someone else's shoes. I've said this since I fucking started. I don't give a fuck what you do. All I care about is let's take care of the least of us. This is, and I'm not coming from a Judeo-Christian position, by the way. This is like fucking humanity shit. But I always talk about the golden rule on here because, you know, if you look at all the religions, they pretty much have that common thread of, you know, take care of your neighbor, do unto others as you want done to you. Don't look at the, you know, the splinter in somebody else's eye until you look at the log in yours. All kinds of ways to twist it up. But it essentially comes down to the same thing, which is do unto others as you want done to them, done to yourself. And so to see friends, folks I know, colleagues, acquaintances posting these memes about people they don't understand tells me that, you know, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what your truth is. If you encounter something that is strange to you or you don't understand, you become fearful. And if you don't have the emotional intelligence to understand that somebody else is allowed to do what the fuck they want with their life, and you post memes criticizing them, it kind of washes away any kind of goodwill that you've, espoused on your feed or in your life, because it tells me that you don't even live by that core tenet of any truth, whether you're religious or not. It's pretty fucking easy to consider somebody else's feelings or emotions, especially if you have any understanding of what they have to go through, putting yourself in their shoes. Now, I know I've talked about this before, and half the country cannot do that. There are people that just cannot fucking fathom somebody living a life that's different from them, whether that comes from some kind of threat of white supremacy or kind of theo-supremacy, if you will, like theological supremacy, thinking that your religion's the only way and you have the only truth. And now your job, you're going to kind of push that on everyone else. I guess that comes from the evangelical thread. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I'm seeing a fuzzy here. I got dog hair everywhere. So if you ever see me with dog hair, I got 2 dogs, no kids. I roll around my dogs. I love them all day. Deal with it. But again, it's just kind of, it's silly because as I talk about, you know, trying to change hearts and minds on this channel and kind of this big idea that I have, you know, you realize that there's an education problem in this country that's going to thwart any kind of idealism that I might have about where we're going to go, because you're always going to have a portion of the population that just can't fucking understand. And whether it's through education, experience, but if the experience is external to them, they don't get it. And so I'm seeing friends, family, whatever, people talking about cisgender and transgender as if they're some fucking expert. And so today I just wanted to kind of point that out and also talk about some of the myths that are going on about this shit. First of all, in a lot of situations, if you look at the amount of, let me just address the whole trans, and by the way, I'm not an expert on this. All I know is I have friends, my wife has friends that are trans, that are in different, positions in their transition or different stages in their transitions. And the things that these folks have to go through to find out who they are, living in a body they don't feel is theirs, living an identity they don't feel is theirs. And all of a sudden now it's so easy for everyone to just go, that's foreign to me, that's strange. I've said it before. I don't understand a lot of things. I can't understand how that happens because it's not me. But that just because I don't understand it doesn't mean I have to go and poke fun at it. That's so schoolyard bully shit. And like I said, the worst thing about it is these are coming from grown adults. There's no one under 18 on my Facebook feed. These are grown fucking adults with children suggesting that, you know, this is ruining sports. Maybe their children are not even in sports. Maybe their children are in sports and they've never had to encounter a transgender person, but the fear is there. And so they suggest that they know what's best. And so, you know, to suggest that somebody's in transition is going to do that because they want that advantage of winning in women's sports or man's sports or whatever, however you want to call, whichever way you're going to go, it just completely ignores their whole experience of what they have to go through even to get to where they are. And so again, you know, to suggest that, hey, they're just going in there to feel better about themselves or, you know, rock the competition, it's going to hurt my daughter's track fucking run, all this bullshit is completely fear-based. And it really kind of shelters around this. It encapsulates this idea that these other folks are coming and invading my comfortable, what I think is an American life, or what I believe is supposed to be the way things are. And so, one of the first things I did when I'm looking at all these memes and just being annoyed is I looked, how many transgender athletes are there? And they don't really know, because, of course, this is something that's kept in the dark. We have all these folks building legislation around it to hinder even talking about it. In Texas, they passed legislation that says, hey, we can put your parents in jail or fine them for even talking or discussing about some kind of gender transition for your child. We're going to put it under the auspices of fucking child abuse. They're going to put it under the fucking banner of child abuse. And so now, all of a sudden, we have, folks that are growing up in this system that we've kind of essentially crippled parents from even dealing with. And now, all of a sudden, we have no studies, we have no kind of research, because it's all dark and hidden. And of course, now we have the side effects from all that fear-based shit that you're spreading on Facebook, of creating fear for people to even come out and talk about it, who are going through this. And so again, it's one of those things that they're using to create a wedge to motivate your dumb ass to get pissed off and think, well, the Democrats are crazy. I'm not having these transgender folks compete. When you don't have any kids, your fucking old ass ain't doing shit. You're not doing shit. What are you worried about? What's the fear? And so, I'm kind of like, all right, well, how bad is this problem that people are fearing? And so you look at what? It's like 1% of the population may identify as trans. Okay, that's the statistic that I pulled out of Google from 2021. Again, anything I say, fact check it. I promise you. Do your own fucking research. But so it's a small percentage of the population of even of who identifies this way, or who has to go through this. It might be more because, of course, the fear that we've created in our society of the differences that these people might have or experience. And so, then you kind of go, okay, well, how many of them are athletes? Well, as of 2021, it was like there was like something like 50 to 100 trans women, and then there were many more trans men in athletic sports. And so you can understand, based on the simplicity of the argument that most people are making, stupidly making, is that, if a person that was born a man transitions to a woman, now they have some unfair advantage. We don't even know that to be true. We don't even know that to be true. In fact, a lot of the cases that people are talking about online, there's a hormonal requirement for you to transition into another sport, or to verify that you are identifying that way, and to make sure that the hormone balance, you're not taking any kind of steroids or anything. I mean, I feel like that may fall in the purview, but again, now understand, if this is the case, that means that all y'all kids need to be fucking tested and hormone tested, because we need to be fair. And then, and you can, perhaps your child, this is something, a side effect that happens. Perhaps your child, you're anti these trans. I want testing. I want everyone to be tested. And then now, all of a sudden, your child, who you have deemed a man, now gets some hormone test that deems them a female. Well, guess what? Your child now goes in there. So you don't want big government. I mean, of course, then big government has to decide, and you got all these arguments. So it's like, to me, it's pretty simple. Let folks do what the fuck they want to do. Stop acting like your motherfucker is going to go, create a career in track, and also in one line suggest that women are equal, and the other line suggests that trans folks don't have an experience that you can relate with, or that it doesn't matter, or their struggle is easy, or they're doing it to have an unfair advantage, is fucking crazy. There's no world that we live in where a transgender person has an unfair advantage in this world. Okay? There's none. The suicide rate is what, 22% of folks that are clinically depressed. What, 16% commit suicide? That's more than 1 in 10 folks that potentially kill themselves, because your dumbass won't open your mind to say, you know what, let's understand this problem. Let's not be the bully on the block. But I see all you motherfuckers bullying people and acting funny. It's girls and guys. It's both men and women on this feed suggesting that because somebody looks a certain way, they no longer qualify as a man or a female. We can always talk about, the stereotypical softball player and butch women, as they were called. I'm using this term, I'm throwing this out. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm actually making an argument to say that men and women come in all shapes and sizes, all different levels of hormone levels. And, I'm not a doctor. I've never taken an anatomy class. I know nothing about the fucking body other than what I Google and anything else. But my understanding is that there's a spectrum of how people's bodies are shaped and formed, regardless of the argument of whether or not they're transgender or they're before we even look into what's going on in their head. So suggest there's a test that says, hey, this is how a woman's body should look, or this is how a man's body should look, is fucked up too. So it's all fucked up. But again, it's such an easy thing to divide people, and it seems like such a no-brainer to folks, apparently, because they can capture the entire argument in a meme, and now all of a sudden it's a no-brainer that of course transgender women shouldn't compete in sports. Of course. And they kind of make that argument that it's so obvious because look at this. And again, it's sitting on a pedestal, judging, punching down on somebody that something you know nothing about, as well as you have no idea about that person's experience. I am not sitting here trying to talk about transgender rights every single day, but you know what? Transgender rights are the same rights that were fought in the Civil War, in the civil rights movement. They're the same rights that we're talking about when we're talking about gay and homosexuals, heterosexuals, everybody. Trans rights are our rights. It's our rights to exist how we want in a society that will do what it can to support our mental health and also understand that every single one of these motherfuckers, as cliche as this sounds, is part of the human race, for Christ's sake. But y'all get on your pedestal and talk about how you know best, and this doesn't look like a woman, and this is why they shouldn't compete, without knowing even the history, the legislation that's required, or even the testing that goes into determining this kind of whether or not someone's going to actually play on a collegiate level sport. And so again, I'm not going to sit here and say, here's the solution. But what I do know is the solution is for you to shut the fuck up, stop judging people, especially people that are kind of at that fringe of society where they're taking in a lot of heat, they're taking in a lot of pressure, their suicidal rates are higher than the other demographics, and that's because of your antics. That's because you think that you know best, and it might scare your children, all this crazy other bullshit. But again, what perfect timing than to have an actual icon or somebody we can actually put on a meme right to lay that foundation for that fear factor that I keep on talking about, so your dumb ass will get off the fucking couch and vote. And that's how fucking easy it is to make sure that we can't talk about healthcare, we can't talk about infrastructure, we can't really have a good social safety net, because guess what? The trans people are coming for our children. The trans people are coming for our athletic records, I guess. That's something held high in esteem, like for folks. Look, you're going to see people say, Nate, you don't know what it's like to have kids and all this bullshit. And that's such a fucking cop-out. Do you think you're special because you have kids, and you don't think that somebody that doesn't have kids can make an honest opinion about, or a valid opinion about how people should be treated? Get the fuck out of here. I see memes like that all the time. Oh, you don't have kids. Don't tell me how. I can tell you that if your kid's doing that dumb shit, I could do a better job first day than you're doing with your kid if your kid's one of those folks bullying. And guess what? They probably learn it from mom and dad. Or dad and dad, or mom and mom. And again, the crazy thing about trans folks that really sucks is we kind of, we've kind of categorized them into this LGBTQ category. However, even within that community, they're still ostracized. And so these people are even ostracized by the demographic we've categorized them from. And then you get your ass on Facebook or Twitter or fucking Snapchat and make funny pictures about them. You have no idea about their struggle. Meanwhile, you're looking like a dumbass, fucking working, doing your dumb shit, crying about government intervention when you're not doing a damn thing, when you're sitting there voting libertarian, or you're voting for fucking Donald Trump and acting as if you're the one that's voting and thinking you care about the country, when that side is creating legislation
essentially bully legislation. They're deputizing citizens again. Isn't that a funny thing how they deputize citizens to go after the folks that are looking to have an abortion, or the women that want to take care of their own bodies and have autonomy? And now we've said, we don't like that, so let's deputize our citizens against it. These transgender laws that are coming across, and the fact that we're allowing this in the conversation, is essentially deputizing people to become critics and become advocates for something they have no idea or understand. And so what I wanted to talk about today was, I told you the narrative I'm kind of trying to help everyone understand, is that this fear-based shit is why we can't have nice things. It's why we the town hall is all abuzz about this cisgender swimmer who apparently is triggering people to suggest that they understand the plight of transgender, they know best, and now we need the government to step in. By the way, mind you, these are mostly Republicans and libertarians that are asking these questions and passing these legislation. Remember the party that's of small government, and they're always crying about the intrusion of government in their personal lives. Meanwhile, they're writing these bills to help solidify their vision for America, which is apparently white cisgender people without any kind of complications or spectrum. That's what they like to do. And anything outside of that is deviant, and we need help, and we need to criminalize anybody else talking about it. That's what the legislation says. Now, this is all fun and games until one of you fucking parents, which always happens, will have a transgender person, and you'll have to flip sides, and you'll say, well, I didn't know, and it's my child now, and understand. Because you didn't understand, because you're one of those people that can't get outside of yourself to actually put yourself in shoes. In fact, when we talk about the golden rule, it doesn't work for you because you can't understand anybody else's experience other than your own. And that's what's apparent to me when I see this stuff on Facebook and all these platforms, is that people will say something, but they truly can't understand that somebody else has a different experience. And so they've now passed around a picture that validates their naive, fear-based approach to life. And it's going to be used to make sure we can't have nice things. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most. I don't have all the answers for the trans community, how we can make it better than them. But one thing I do know is that we have to stop treating them as if they're not humans and they don't have their own experience, and stop invalidating somebody else's opinion. This may sound like a fucking lecture, but this is really the reason why I want to be doing this and blow up the megaphone, is because I'm so fucking tired of people punching down on people because they don't have the same viewpoint, because they don't share the same religion, because they're different skin color, because they talk funny, because of how they identify. All these things, which again, we're supposed to be the land of the free. The pursuit of happiness is one of our kind of mantras. Meanwhile, in real life, we're sitting here beating down on these folks without even thinking about their experience. And it drives me nuts. And so if you're one of those folks that I've seen today, most likely you won't have any interactions from me anymore. I have no desire. I don't care whether you stand on the side of, we worked on the Obama campaign together, or you're fucking, right there capturing Donald Trump's balls because he wears no clothes. You know what I mean? I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're one of those folks that are using those people, or these people, our people, as punching bags, you can fuck off. And I will tell you, you are one of the reasons that make America horrible. You're one of the reasons why we can't have nice things, because you continue to fall for their bullshit. You continue to make this a big issue, and then it kind of falls under the purview of family values, and then we start banning books that talk about it. And meanwhile, then we start to move into fascism, which again, I know that's a big word for you, and I know Antifa is probably the only word you understand. Because that made-up organization that you fell for. Again, these are the same folks calling me a sheeple and doing all this dance. But, it just seems to me that there is, the formulaic way that these folks are getting elected. It's just so easy to trigger you to fall and play their games. And so today I just wanted to say, kind of put a flag in the sand to say, if you're one of those folks that is going to that it's passing around memes. And look, I'm a comedian, and you're allowed to do what you want to do. I have a whole blog post and a whole live where I talk about the fact that, look, Dave Chappelle can say what he wants, but he also can deal with the consequences, which again aren't gonna be that he's canceled. We've talked about that. There's no such thing as cancel culture for these people. It's good marketing or bad marketing. Every marketing is good. No one gets canceled. No one fucking gets canceled. Colin Kaepernick was the only person that got canceled in the whole fucking thing, and he was just because of the racism that exists in the NFL, and that's fucking you can that's a whole nother thing. But anyway. So today I kind of wanted to be short and sweet because I was a little fired up about this, and it's going to be the topic that's going to be brought up. Again, they're still rolling with the CRT fear. There's going to be some new stuff. Abortion's going to be fired up. They're going to start talking about late-term abortion soon to make sure that you're scared, and then you'll create a nice little meme to suggest that, hey, how dare somebody say murder this little baby, and you'll have a picture of a baby in a womb, and all the imagery will start to pop out to hit you where it hurts because you don't have the capacity to think outside of yourself and understand that anyone else's experience is different than yours actually has a viable reason for living. It's so funny how the pro-life people and the folks that are anti-trans are the same people that are advocating or suggesting that we're coming after Christians and that you know, the war on Christmas started again. These are the same folks. The war on Christmas. Fucking A. I can't wait to get to that one again. But again, it's the same thing. And of course, it's to make sure that their worldview is maintained, and anything that shakes that worldview has to be crushed. And so if you're one of those folks, why don't you go pull that meme down, send a message to me, because I guarantee you're blocked. Or if you're not blocked, you're essentially erased from my feed. Or maybe delete it and say, you know, I didn't know any better. I posted this. I'm an idiot. I don't understand their experience. Put out apology. Because I'm telling you right now, that does a lot more than your meme that tries to tear somebody down, that lives a life that you have no idea or understand. And so I am making the claim that I don't understand everything. I don't have all the answers. But I will say I want these people to be fulfilled, and I think we need to listen to them. I think we need to study them. I think we need to understand what the experience they go through. When I say study them, I don't mean it as if we should put them in a lab. I mean we should have resources to help facilitate their livelihood so they can thrive and become members of society and actually not live a life of guilt and shame and self-loathing, which is what a lot of them are doing because of your dumb shit. And it's so sad because, again, I'm preaching to the choir in one instance, but another instance I'm talking to people that just are never going to get it, and they're sitting there triggered because I'm saying that, hey, you know what, Nate? They're coming up with all these counterexamples of why it's wrong. Meanwhile, you got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. What are you fucking worried about? What the fuck are you worried about? God. So, look, I'm going to wrap with that today. I think I'm kind of lined up with a half hour. One thing I will say, I want to give you a quick update. So let me just summarize that point and put a bow around it. So, there are going to be more of these issues brought up because it's easy to get you riled up and it's easy to divide people. And I'm always going to be on the side of the folks that are being punched down on. So if you're one of those folks that are on the other side of that, you're punching down, fuck off. Number two, I have no idea what it's going to take for people to understand, whether they're religious-based, Judeo-Christian, Hindu, whatever, that once we start looking at each other like fellow human beings and saying, you know what, that experience that person's having is awful. What can we do to change it? We will start to see that we're going to agree with a lot of the solutions that are out there. We're going to start to see that we're in this together. We realized that from the pandemic. We're in this together. You fucknut. It's not just about your rugged individualism. I know that's what you want to think, that you did it all on your own, but you're fucking bullshit. You're total bullshit. You had some help with your parents. Maybe you don't have parents. You had some help from this infrastructure. You're not as powerful and awesome as you think. You could not do what you're doing if there was no other people on this planet. We're just going to use induction to prove the fact that, you're not doing this on your own. People are like, oh, I love Elon Musk. I love you. Motherfucker didn't do a goddamn thing on his own. And he's out there bashing trans people, and KJ Rowlings is doing it because they have all the knowledge, they have money, and they have all this following, and they're using their platform to bash folks that they don't understand. And you're holding them in high esteem just because they have aggregated more resources than everyone else. I mean, it doesn't mean they're fucking all of a sudden gurus or saints or sages. They've got lucky. They were born with some privilege. And if you think that I don't appreciate hard work or suggest that, I heard some shit this weekend that Elon Musk is like the greatest. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Come the fuck on. Come the fuck on. Really? Because he aggregated more resources in a time where oligarchies like in and kosher, get the fuck out. He's also one of those folks that was pushing down on transgender. So basically, to me, his money can't buy coolness. He's a fucking idiot. So anyway, I just want to wrap that point by saying, don't fall for it. Get off your high horse and start embracing things that you don't understand, or start learning about it at least. And to that point, I'll say, one of my neighbors came to me and talked about they're a white family, and they were talking. She came to me and she was talking to me about how she voted for Republican a lot of her life, and she was telling me how she's kind of going through this, trying to understand and reach out and understand some of the black experience. Again, it was kind of random, but she came to me and she said, hey, I want a book for you to read. But I thought what's interesting about that is I can appreciate that. Even if they're voting, we need a good Republican Party, by the way. But even if, and by the way, as I understand it, they didn't vote for Trump, so that was a win. But what I liked about it is she was kind of reaching outside of her own experience, looking into other ways to understand people that may not be in the same demographic as her, may not have had the same world experience, but here she is diving into that world to try to understand it. And she kind of reached out to me and said, hey, I'd love your opinion on it. Of course, the way you do that is you have to be careful, but I think she was respectful, and she was kind of excited about this journey that she's on to understand this whole world that may not match up with her experience. That's the kind of thing I can appreciate. And if you have a big R by your name and you're doing that kind of research or self-evaluation or trying to understand things you don't understand, I can appreciate it. In fact, that's the kind of Republican Party I want to see. So anyway, we're just going to wrap that. Stop fucking bullying trans people and get off your high horse. You're not that fucking special, and don't worry about your son or daughter. They're going to be fine. If they have to go against a trans or cis person, tell them to do their best. And this is the world we live in. Get over it. And stop making excuses. By the way, they're probably going to still fucking get a trophy because that's where we're at in this world. All right. That being said, I want to just talk about a couple things I did over the weekend. One in particular, that was I sat down with a podcast run by a person I was introduced to named Joe Ament. It's called Beating the Wall. Beating the Wall only. I fucked that up earlier. I keep saying, Joe, don't fucking hate me right now. I'm sorry, dude. It's so disrespectful, but I'm fucking bad with fucking words. Beating Walls only. And he's a local person here in Lancaster County that really, he's been doing this for over a year. He interviews people, random people, not in people of importance necessarily. So don't, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. In fact, I was kind of like, I'm not really that commonly known. But what's awesome about it, he's a young kid, in his mid-20s, just kind of doing the grind, trying to learn comedy. He's been doing comedy for a while, for over 2 years. He told me he's like, 2 years of work, and he's got a 15-minute bit. So he's grinding hard, and he's chasing his dream, and he's doing this podcast where he just talks to people about anything. Now, I will say our political views didn't align 100%, but it was a great conversation, and that's going to be released. It may be released tomorrow. It was the first time I did something like that. I loved it. It also taught me a lot about what I need to do to kind of get myself into that podcast world, and that's interview and talk to other people. I love the rant. I love to get on here and just fucking, let it out. But I did kind of see this kind of community that he's built around his podcast to support his comedy and everything else. I thought it was amazing. So just want to give a shout out to Joe and Beating Walls Only. We had about an hour and 40-minute conversation. He doesn't edit it, so you might hear some shit that I said on there that you're going to be like, what the fuck? We also, he said some things. I tried to be as political correct. He is not political correct on his podcast, and it's his podcast. And I said it's free speech. So I don't want to necessarily, just because I'm on his podcast doesn't mean that I, agree with everything he says or does. But what I do agree with and love is his fire and his drive, and he's trying to, get himself out there and follow his dream. And this is a whole different world we're in if you're trying to do that kind of social, that kind of personality type lifestyle. It's a grind. And so I loved it. Again, thanks to Mike Parado who connected us. I had a great time. We smoked, we drank, we talked for about an hour and 40 minutes, and I think that's going to be released soon. I will put out a link for that. But also, I learned a shit ton from this gentleman, and it was just fascinating to hear his approach and his perspective on a lot of things. One thing I loved about that interview, he was like, I really want to, interview a transgender person, and he talked about kind of why. And so while we didn't have everything that we talked about aligned, and maybe our verbiage and how we describe different demographics might be different, I think that it was really well. We vibed well. And it was really cool. And again, I just want to give a shout out and say thanks, Joe. Thanks for Beaten Walls Only. Check it out. You can find it on all the podcast platforms. And, it's not some huge podcast, but he's grinding. And he knows about the grind. He knows he's got to put in time. He knows he's got to put out episodes to get that content kind of volume up, so where he has a catalog of content he can reference and everything else. I loved it. It was fantastic. I want to do more of that. I'm not suggesting that I'm a person that's great to interview, but I want to do more of that interactivity. And we've talked about kind of leveling up every kind of series. And I think one of the things that I got to start adding is that interactivity piece on top of this kind of rant style thing that I love to do. Anyway, listen, that's going to be the show tonight. Again, I'll just sum up what I wanted to say today, and that is stop punching down on fucking transgender people. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We don't even have enough research to understand what we're dealing with or the impact of any of this stuff. And so let's be open-minded. Let's embrace difference. Let's understand their experience is not kind of peaches and cream. And let's kind of embrace those folks that are kind of on the fringe that aren't really getting the attention or respect that they deserve. And if you're any kind of human being, just think about that. Think about somebody else's experience. Put yourself in their shoes and say, how would I want to be treated? And then maybe pull down that fucking dumbass meme that you posted on social media. Also want to give a shout out to all the folks that are still supporting me. Look, if you heard that I got a job and this thing's going to change, this is really, I'm excited about the job. It's a great company. It's a friend that I know. It's not a friend, but it's somebody who I worked with in the past. I would say friend, acquaintance, but soon to be boss, colleague. And the best thing about it was following this gentleman on LinkedIn, I see him posting about feminism. I see him posting about inclusion. So this thing is not going to change. I'm working for an employer by choice that is okay with my riffing and rants, and most likely on a lot of things will be politically aligned, and also understands that this is the new medium. This is the new trampoline. And so they have no problem with me doing this. They have no problem with me continuing this. In fact, they've accommodated me in many ways so that I can continue to do this by helping to provide an office space where I don't have to take this thing down and up. They've also kind of said, hey, look, you have unlimited vacation. You have unlimited time. Work your own hours. Do whatever you need. Just get your work done. All these things are to accommodate this podcast. And so while my priority is during the day is going to be to make sure I'm operating optimally for that company and performing, I'm going to have plenty of time to do this. And it's going to give me the resources as well to kind of continue to level up and maybe hire people and do all these other things. So to my future employer, I'm so excited. I love it. I know we're going to vibe well, and I'm really happy about it. To those folks who think things are going to change, things are going to continue to level up. I didn't say I was going to do this for 2 years and quit. I said 5 years. And so we're not even halfway yet of how much time I want to put into this before I say, you know what, there's just no chance of me succeeding, and I'm fucking quitting. But as you can see where I am today, we've gotten better. We got more followers, we got more subscribers. Things are looking better. My quality's better. Everything's getting up better. And so I want to just say we're still going. We're still trucking ahead, and nothing's going to change. I promise you that. So I'll wrap with that. I'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 p.m., Monday through Thursday. Check out Nightcap. If you don't know, you got to follow. You got to share. You got to buy the dope hat. You got to buy the shirt. The sweatshirts are awesome. It's summertime. Buy a T-shirt. Help support it. If you don't feel like supporting it and you don't really give a shit, share, like it, comment, tell me I suck, send me a personal message, do something to show that, you know what, Nate, you're a fucking dork, you're a dick, I don't like what you're doing, but you know what, I'll give you that validation because you know what, we need more people screaming and yelling about shit that nobody talks about. So I love the support. You guys are great. SmashTheParty.com/links is where you can find all my different social media stuff. Someday I'll have my lower third up again, and so I'll do this. You'll have this stuff on your screen, but you know how I roll. I'm always fucking shooting from the hip in some instances. In other instances, I've got a crystal clear vision. So with that, I'll wrap. I will see you guys tomorrow at 10:30. Again, I will put out the links for the Beating Walls Only. Joe, Mike, love it. Love the hookup. Love the connection. All the folks that I never get to mention that support me, that are subscribers, that are doing the likes, doing the shares, commenting, engaging with the content. I just want to say thank you. We'll see you tomorrow at 10:30. Peace.